Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Hogwarts, a bit rebellious as the Dark Lord. Chapter 41. Riels raised his eyebrows in surprise. Just when he was about to say something, he felt something was added to his waist. The next moment, hiss. The sound of Riels gasping for air was like thunder, exploding in the silent common room, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Seeing this, Pansy, the instigator, quickly retracted her little hand, took a few steps back and pretended to be harmless and had nothing to do with me. Everyone looked at Riels, who was almost jumping in pain, and then looked at Pansy, who was looking around and pretending to be innocent, and they all shuddered. She actually pinched his waist in public, and she did it so harshly, so cruel. Pansy is embarrassed +17, guilty +3, Snape is displeased +11, Cassandra is amused +8, Malfoy is proud +14, others are surprised +38. Well, a little guilty, but not much, right? After Riels complained secretly, he turned his attention to the name of the person behind him. Now he was completely sure that the person who came in with Snape was none other than the famous Sister Ka. Cassandra Worley, the eldest daughter of the Worley family, probably entered Hogwarts many years after Voldemort was defeated. But now that Harry Potter had just entered school, why did she show up? This Beaver, apparently not Beaver. Before he could figure out why Cassandra appeared, Snape's cold voice came to his ears. Mr. Thomas, Miss Parkinson, are you done? Do you think I don't exist? He was still a little worried about Riels entering Slytherin, not that he felt Riels was unworthy of his status. There was just some concern that other Slytherin students would crowd out Riels. He had also been ostracized and targeted, so he hated this kind of thing deeply, and never wanted anyone to experience that kind of pain again in the academy he was in charge of. So after he picked up Cassandra, he hurried back, but it turned out that he was completely overthinking it. Not only is this kid fine, but he is also smiling playfully. It is estimated that nothing will happen to him if he comes a little later. Snape is happy +8, annoyed +2, Malfoy is angry +9, others are annoyed +24. If Hogwarts is a paradise for mood points, then Slytherin is definitely a paradise within paradise. Seeing that the emotion value had almost exceeded the 2000 mark, Riels raised the corners of his lips happily. Today's harvest is almost as good as his previous 2 years combined. 2000 may not seem like much, but it can already be exchanged for 2 primary magic spells and 4 bottles of primary magic potion. These are just the gains from your first day at Hogwarts. Now he already feels that those luxurious days of buying 2 bottles of the best magic potion and drinking 1 bottle and another are not far away. However, not long after he had been silent in his imagination, he felt a familiar feeling coming from his waist again, which suddenly frightened him. Professor Snape, I'm sorry. Pansy also lowered her head and said, Sorry, Professor Snape. Snape looked at the 2 people standing next to each other, his brows knitted together. Are these 2 little wizards a little too precocious? Isn't this too intimate? If Riels knew what he was thinking, he would definitely jump up and punch him twice. Close. What's your vision, old bat? Can't you see the cold sweat on his face? Can't you see Pansy's little hand on his waist? Whose family is so intimate? This is clearly violence, naked violence. Be careful next time, keep quiet in the common room. After Snape finished speaking, he glanced around the circle of little snakes. The person next to me is Cassandra Worley, a young wizard who has just entered Slytherin this year. She came from the United States and has some special circumstances, so there was no sorting ceremony. There are 2 things left. First, I don't want to hear insulting names like Mudblood again. He paused here, and his eyes fell directly on Malfoy, who was shrinking his neck. The meaning was self-evident. Obviously, what he said was meant for Malfoy, and of course other little snakes were not excluded. Malfoy shrank his head and squeezed into the crowd again, but helplessly, the little snakes didn't want to let this target that attracted firepower escape. Then an extremely indescribable scene occurred in the Slytherin common room. I saw Malfoy lowering his head, sticking out his butt and shaking continuously, trying to squeeze away the 2 people behind him and let himself hide in. This is an eye-catching scene. Even when a pervert comes, you have to give a thumbs up, and you have to sigh. But neither Malfoy nor the people around him noticed anything was wrong. Anyone who noticed something was wrong was stunned by this shocking scene and didn't know how to warn them. Riels just glanced at it, then quickly turned to look at Cassandra and Pansy. Wash his eyes quickly. He was afraid that if he looked at such an eye-catching sight for a second longer, he would develop needle holes that would never heal. This pain will never heal. Snape looked deeply at the weird Malfoy, turned his head expressionlessly, and continued to speak coldly. One more thing, Slytherin implements a hidden prefect system. Each grade will have a hidden prefect who is responsible for managing the students in his grade. Although hidden prefects are not recognized by the college, becoming a hidden prefect can have an independent dormitory. I would like to ask you to be responsible for the specific selection, Miss Farley. Gemma Farley, whose name was called, walked out of the crowd, bowed very elegantly and said, "Professor Snape, please rest assured." Snape nodded with rare satisfaction. After looking around at the little snakes again, he turned around and walked to the sofa to sit down and look at everyone quietly. The little snakes were stared at by him, and they all dared not show their anger, let alone act like monsters. "I'm the fifth-year prefect, Gemma Farley. The selection of the hidden prefect is very simple. Wizards who want to be hidden prefects duel with each other. Whoever wins will be the hidden prefect. I, Slytherin, believe in winning first. Only by winning can you get what you want and gain privileges." As soon as these words came out, the first-year little snake was so excited that he eagerly pulled out his wand. Even Cassandra, who had been doing very little, was somewhat moved. Riels was not surprised at all. The little snakes here were all pure Slytherin. They possess most of the qualities of Slytherins. They are ambitious, shrewd, honorable, size up the situation, be prudent and protective, and win first. It was under this circumstance that the system of hidden superiors was born, with the purpose of promoting competition among the little snakes. Let them know the meaning of victory first, understand how to value the sense of honor, and stimulate their ambitions. It can be said that a hidden prefect system can make Slytherin students become very vicious. This is why Slytherin wins the most house cups every year. Because they value the sense of honor and will fight hard for this honor, which is a quality that the other three colleges do not possess. Of course, there are some people operating behind the scenes, right? Snape, the walking bat. Gemma Farley drew a large circle with fluorescent green light on the ground with the wand in her hand, and continued, "Those who want to select a hidden prefect can come in. Standing within the aperture, those who stand outside the aperture will be eliminated, those who fall to the ground will be eliminated, and those who surrender will be eliminated. The last person standing will be the hidden prefect of the first grade." As soon as she finished speaking, the little snakes who had been impatient suddenly swarmed over her. Not long after, there were more than a dozen first-year wizards standing in the fluorescent circle. "Are you still dazed? That's a hidden prefect, don't you want to be? I'll leave you alone, I'll go first." Pansy glanced at Riels angrily and quickly ran into the circle of light. For a young Slytherin wizard, there is nothing more important than honor and special treatment in exchange for strength. Pansy is disappointed +9, Cassandra is curious +7. Riels turned his head and glanced at Cassandra, who was holding her arms. "Miss Worley, do you want to come with us?" He is extremely curious about Cassandra, who should not appear in this world. After all, this is not a difference of 1 or 2 years, but more than 10 or 20 years. The timeline is too far ahead. Cassandra glanced at him and said quietly, "Then don't make me feel too boring." Just after she finished speaking, before Riels could reply, she quickly stepped into the circle of light. Riels touched his nose and stepped into the aperture without caring about her reaction. He may not be a qualified Slytherin, but it is undeniable that he admires strength and exchanging strength for privileges. He didn't like the honor of Slytherin's hidden prefect, but a separate dormitory, he was bound to get it. Who wants to live with others when they can live in a single room? Of course, it's a different matter if men and women live together. As Riels stepped into the circle of light, no one of the first-year snakes stood outside the circle, and they all chose to compete for the hidden prefect. But, the little snakes looked at Riels holding the wand with strange eyes. Most of them were gloating about his misfortune. "You're a fool, you're the only one who still wants to be a hidden prefect. Did you eat too much chicken drumsticks this afternoon? You really have no self-awareness at all. You don't really think you are strong, do you? Is your strength useless? There are so many of us who can beat you, how many can you beat?" Malfoy pointed his wand at Riel's, a mixture of disdain and mockery on his face. The faces of the other little snakes were also a little ugly, and they all looked at Riel's with unkind eyes. Just kidding, it would be ridiculous for a Muggle-born wizard to enter Slytherin and make them all feel embarrassed. If Riel's becomes a hidden prefect again, then they won't just be embarrassed. It's time to go back to the drawing board and rebuild. Malfoy's ridicule +1-1, Pansy's worry +1-2, Cassandra's amusement +9, Snape's curiosity +9, and others' irritation +117. Tisk, the snake yard is fine, but the wizard is not very friendly, but it doesn't matter, after a few more beatings, everything will be friendly. Riel's curled his lips and said, "What? Are you still playing one-on-one and group fights? Single fight, group fight, do you think I'm playing house with you? You're a piece of shit." Before Malfoy even uttered his sarcastic words, he received Snape's death gaze, and his words were immediately blocked in his mouth. It wasn't until Snape looked away that he breathed out a few sighs of relief, followed by even greater anger, directed at Riel's. "No need to talk nonsense, let's eliminate this mud first, and then we can fight for the hidden prefect." Regarding Malfoy's proposal, the little snakes nodded in agreement and looked at Riel's with hostility in their eyes. Again, Riel's entering Slytherin has already embarrassed them, and he must not be allowed to become a hidden prefect. Snape, who was sitting on the sofa, saw this and raised the corner of his mouth with a subtle arc, obviously very satisfied with the little snake's reaction. Assess the situation, unite those who can unite, and deal with the common enemy first to avoid being taken advantage of. Regarding this, the little snakes did a good job and he was very satisfied. As for whether this is fair to Riel's, he doesn't care. Riel's himself wants to participate in this selection. Being attacked by everyone now is the result that he should bear after making his choice. He will not pity Riel's for this. Malfoy's gloating +13, Pansy's nervousness +9, regret +6, determination +10, Cassandra's playful +10, others' hostility +33. Playing again. What, are you done watching the show yet? Does this little girl like watching theater so much? Do you want to send her some melon seeds? Riel's turned his head, glanced wordlessly at Cassandra not far away, and silently complained in his heart. Then he looked at Pansy who was close to him. He was a little moved and a little funny. "Didn't you listen to what I said just now? This is a one-on-one fight and a group fight. Single combat means that I challenge a group of them alone, and group fighting means that I beat a group of them by myself. It is difficult for me to do this. Be good, go over and have a meal with Miss Worley." Riel's tone was like coaxing a child, but the words he spoke made Pansy's cerebellum shrink. Is this what single-on-one and group fights mean? Brother, do you want to listen to what you are saying about tigers and wolves? Malfoy and the others are the most powerful among the freshmen of this year. They are all mixed bloods at worst, and there are quite a few pure bloods. Riel's, a little Muggle-born wizard, actually wanted to challenge a dozen of them at once. Oh, I almost forgot, Riel's called this a gang fight. He beat a group of people by himself, so it was called a gang fight. Pansy wanted to persuade Riel's, but after meeting his firm eyes, she gave in. Be careful yourself. If you can't defeat, just admit defeat. It is also a Slytherin tradition to assess the situation. After telling her, Pansy walked over to Cassandra and stood next to her without stopping. The eyes of the two little Lolita collided in the air. They were both a little surprised at the other's appearance, and then both turned their heads away from each other. She didn't think she would be any different in appearance than the other person. ×2. Pansy is helpless +1-2, Cassandra is surprised +9, Snape is displeased +13, others are laughing at +27, and anger is +3-1. Another level of emotional value arrived, and the emotional value successfully broke through the 2,000 mark and started to move towards 3,000. Riel's raised his eyebrows happily and waved his wand casually. You do it first, or do I? Or do you just admit defeat and avoid a severe beating? How about that? To be honest, let alone these dozen little wizards, he wouldn't be afraid of a dozen more. Even if he doesn't know many magic spells now, a salvo of 10,000 bullets is enough. His provocative words immediately aroused the anger of the little snakes, and at the same time, he got his wish and gained nearly 100 emotion points again. But correspondingly, there are also various curses rushing towards him. Confinement quickly. The front teeth match the stick. Oolong comes out of the hole. Get out of the way and let me give him a hard blow. Avada, we'll all be petrified. The common room, illuminated by various magic spells, was colorful, which also caused the little snakes watching to cheer. Snape gently rubbed his wand a few times and watched the scene with cold eyes. However, it could be seen from his straightened body that he was ready to take action at any time. No matter what, he couldn't let Riels get hurt under his nose. This was something he would never allow. Will Riels be fine? He is so confident, he should be absolutely sure. Pansy tightened her wand and wanted to help several times, but thinking of Riel's confident and determined eyes, she stopped her impulse. Cassandra raised her lips slightly and gave her an unclear look. If you think so, why bother asking that again? She had seen this young man in high spirits, well, when he was at Flourish and Blott's bookstore. Those questions made her ponder for a long time. When she couldn't sleep at night, she would stand in front of the window and stare at the night sky, thinking about which of them she had met. Being born in such a family only means that you are lucky, but it does not mean that you are noble. This nobility belongs to this family and to the noble people this family has created, not to you who were just born in this family. She enrolled in Hogwarts because of Riel's words. His ability to say these words meant that he was not a stupid person, and she believed that Riels would not let her down. Pansy worries +13, Cassandra expects +11, Snape worries +12, others are complacent +74, and enjoy +33. Riels ignored the system and waved the wand in his hand. 10,000 bullets fired. Just kidding, although he is confident, he is not arrogant, especially since this is his first serious battle. It would be bad if he overturns. You're all pretending, but you have to have a perfect ending no matter what, otherwise it's not all in vain. Dozens of radiant canaries condensed on the top of the wand, and the next moment, as if they had received an order, they all rushed towards the magic spell. As soon as the canaries finished shooting, dozens more canaries appeared, followed by a volley of shots. Salvo is called this because as long as your magic power is not exhausted, you can try to concentrate the canaries and shoot them. This does not mean that the magic is used repeatedly, but that once it is used, the magic power can be used to continue to gather the canaries. This is also the origin of the name 10,000 bullets. Sounds strong, but in fact, it consumes a lot of magic power and is not very powerful. It can even be said to be very weak. This is still compared to some ordinary magic spells, and it is completely incomparable to those like eating big melons. But against these spells that are not very lethal, or even have no lethality at all, it is not that weak. Thousands of bullets fired. To set off, it all depends on other magic spells to set off. Condensed 3 consecutive volleys of 10,000 bullets. It's exactly what the Sorting Hat said. The magic power reserve is amazing. When Snape saw this, his tense body instantly relaxed, and he looked at Riels with some surprise. He knew that a salvo of bullets would have little lethality. In a sense, this spell was more suitable for performances and would not be used in general duels. It's not surprising that Riels can cast it. After spending so much time in Diagon Alley, it makes sense to learn some magic. What really surprised him was that Riel's magic hadn't dried up yet. Normally, a young wizard of this age would be able to gather more than a dozen, which is already the limit. Looking at Riels, who was still stress-free, Snape gently rubbed the wand a few times. Is it possible that he is really a genius? Thousands of bullets fired together is not a rare spell, and the little wizards here are not ordinary wizards either. Seeing that Riels could continuously condense canaries, the little snakes were stunned, and even Cassandra's eyes widened in surprise. At their age, the only thing that can widen the gap is the number of spells and proficiency in controlling them. I have never heard of a gap in magic power reserves. But Riels told them with facts. Not only can they widen the gap in these two things, but they can also widen the gap in magic power reserves. This is really a scorpion daddy. Snape is surprised +17, Pansy is happy +11, Cassandra is surprised +12, others are shocked +67, jealous +45, and angry +124. Riels, whose emotional value surged again, raised the corners of his mouth, turned the wand a few times in his hand, and stopped condensing the canary. It's not that his magic power is insufficient, On the contrary, he has only lost less than half of his magic power now, so it won't be a problem to gather canaries 4 or 5 times. It's just not necessary because Malfoy and the others have already lost. Looking at the little snakes lying on the ground outside the circle, with expressions of disbelief on their faces, Riels mocked, "That's it, that's it. I thought they were so strong, and they were still fighting in a group. But you don't have to give in. It's only the first day of school. We still have plenty of time. Come back next time, I will let you have fun." What did he mean by these pictures? Pull hatred fiercely. What if he turns into a coward for these little snakes today? Will he still be able to increase his mood so happily in the future? Don't take advantage of their illness to kick them in the waist, let them know that people's hearts are sinister, and make them resentful and want revenge. Are you still waiting for him to take the initiative to provoke you in the future? If you give me a small reward, he won't do anything that reduces the price. He has some emotional value, so don't take it. Riels, you filthy mud. The furious Malfoy was about to curse when he saw Snape standing up from sitting on the sofa, his cold eyes falling directly on him. This look directly extinguished his anger and even made him shiver with cold. Malfoy showed a smile that was uglier than crying. "Professor Snape, you know, I just said something indiscriminately." This was Snape, not only a famous master of potions in the wizarding world, but also a powerful wizard who even Lucius was afraid of. In addition, Snape is also the Dean of Slytherin. The combination of these identities means that he is destined to be unable to stand in front of Snape. He could guarantee that Snape would really beat him, a real beating, and maybe even have a mixed doubles match with Lucius. If his luck is even worse and his mother Narcissa comes, it will be a mixed bag of the three. He will be broken, he will be broken. Ah, he will die, he will definitely die. Snape said coldly. "Mr. Malfoy, I hope this is the last time, otherwise I will have to talk to Lucius." Malfoy breathed a sigh of relief. "I understand, Professor." Snape looked at him coldly, then turned to look at Riels. "Mr. Thomas, the selection is not over yet. You have 2 opponents waiting for you. If you were facing a real enemy, your body and head would have been separated due to your stupid kung fu." Snape was surprised +1-2, Malfoy was jealous +1-4, Pansy was surprised +1-1, Cassandra was surprised +9, and the others were shocked +8-4. It's almost 2,000 and 5,000. Riels looked at his mood and raised his eyebrows happily. "Professor Snape is right, but they are not my enemies, and they won't be. As far as he is concerned, there are no enemies to speak of. There are only tool people who increase the emotional value, such as Malfoy, and have no nose." A little Lolita like Hermione Pansy prefers to talk about relationships. What relationships? Well, a friendship that hasn't gone bad yet. It's pure, at least it's still pure for now. Snape looked at him deeply and said coldly, "I hope it won't be the case. Let the selection continue." Riels is not the first Muggle-born student to enter Slytherin. The last one who came in was also highly talented, also the best among his peers, and was even born as an orphan. But later, that person became a nightmare in the wizarding world, a dark lord that made people talk about it. The experiences of Riels and that man cannot be said to be similar, but they can only be said to be quite different. No one can guarantee that in an atmosphere like Slytherin's, another Dark Lord will not be created. That's one of the reasons why he doesn't want to see Riels pushed aside by others. In response to Snape's words, Riels smiled noncommittally and turned to look at the 2 little Lolita. "I have said what I said, please don't hit me in the face." "Okay, let's talk about it. Do you want to gang up on me alone, or should I challenge you 2 alone?" To be honest, he was looking forward to Cassandra's strength. This little girl was definitely stronger than Malfoy. Cassandra is a truly talented woman. Not only is she high-born, she is also highly talented, and she also works hard, so her sense of arrogance is so natural. Pansy and Cassandra looked at each other, and the 2 little Lolita turned around and ran a few steps in the opposite direction in perfect agreement. They didn't hate each other. On the contrary, that look made them decide to cooperate and work together to defeat Riels. Assessing the situation and knowing how to unite those around you is what a standard Slytherin should learn. Pansy is dignified +9, Cassandra is expectant +10, others are nervous +33, and indignant +75. Riels glanced at the little snakes who were expecting him to lose quickly, and curled his lips with some disdain. Stand at attention when being beaten. Incompetent rage is the most shameful behavior. Spread out and want to attack me from both sides. No matter which side I defend, there will be openings on the other side. It is indeed a good way. The fluorescent circle was so big that there wasn't much room for him to dodge, so he had no choice but to accept their attacks. But there was only one wand, and their spells came from different directions, so it would be difficult to resist them at the same time. Unless he has a defensive spell, this situation is very disadvantageous for him. Pansy and Cassandra didn't answer his words, they just looked at each other in the distance and raised their wands together, petrify them all. Collapse. 2 gray spells emitted from the tip of the wand and struck Riels from different directions. This scene made the little snakes watching the game very nervous, and they were all praying for Anon to hit the target with one hit and eliminate Riels. There was nothing more unacceptable to them than having a Muggle-born wizard become the hidden prefect of Slytherin. This is nothing less than telling the entire wizarding world that pure blood and mixed blood wizards are no match for Muggle-born wizards. Although they didn't think Pansy and Cassandra could beat Riels, they had no choice now. Pansy is nervous +10, Cassandra is excited +10, Snape is curious +12, Malfoy is nervous +11, and everyone else is nervous +99. Riels didn't pay attention to the system's prompts, although the soaring emotional value made him very happy. He now wants to teach the 2 little Lolita a lesson, that is, there is no need to reason with those who are cheating. Riels waved his wand lightly, a salvo of 10,000 bullets. Dozens of canaries gathered at the top of the wand, and the next moment, they quickly rushed towards the unconscious place where Cassandra was released. Seeing this scene, Pansy and the little snakes watching the battle were overjoyed, thinking that their plan was successful. After all, Riels cast the spell and chose to resist being knocked unconscious, which was more likely to make him lose the ability to fight, instead of resisting all petrification. This shows that he has no way to escape, so he chooses to do this. Now that Riels chooses to block the fainting, he can only accept the petrification. As long as he accepts, the winner will be determined. The little snakes were so excited that they almost opened 2 bottles of red wine to celebrate. Snape also shook his head with regret. You are still a little younger. In fact, this situation is easy to solve. You just need to strike first and kill an enemy, and the potential for a pincer attack will naturally disappear. But Riels may have been too arrogant and missed the easiest way to break the game. Pansy is excited +11, Cassandra is happy +9, disappointed +6, Malfoy is proud +10, Snape is disappointed +17, others are excited +108. Tisk, isn't it a little too early to open the champagne before the outcome is decided? Riels chuckled lightly, turned the wand twice in his hand, and raised the wand high to make a swinging motion. Oolong came out of the hole. With this curse, Riels swung his wand and threw out the black snake manifested by the magic power. The black snake collided with all the petrified stones. The next moment, the black snake turned into a gray stone statue and fell straight to the ground. All the petrifications released by Pansy were successfully blocked. The smiles on the faces of the little snakes who saw this scene froze, and their expressions instantly darkened. To petrify everything, you only need to petrify living things, and they will dissipate on their own. If you petrify the black snake that came out of the cave, the petrification of everything will naturally disappear. Snape rubbed his wand and looked at Riels with some satisfaction. He is very satisfied with Riels' performance. He is talented and intelligent, and his magic power reserve is much higher than that of his peers. Judging from the few spells Riels has cast, he should be a very studious person. The only thing that dissatisfied him was Riels' character, which was too out of the box. This kind of person could easily break the rules and not follow them. Another very important point is that at such a young age, I have 2 little girls around me, and I don't know how carefree I will be in the future. But these shortcomings are not worth mentioning for those who have some points. No one is perfect. If it is too perfect, there will be problems. Overall, Snape is very satisfied with Riels, at least for now, but he is not sure what will happen in the future. Snape is satisfied +15, Pansy is panicked +12, Cassandra is solemn +13, Malfoy is angry +15, and others are worried +147. Approaching, the 2,500 mark. Riels looked at the emotional value that was about to reach 2,500 and suddenly felt like crying. Who knows, my family, I have been practicing hard for 2.5 years, but I haven't made as much money in one day at Hogwarts. With a huge sum of money in his pocket, Riels straightened his back, raised his wand and said, "It's over." 10,000 bullets fired. It's the familiar canary again. I don't know if it's the first time I've seen it tonight. The little snakes are going numb. People of the same age can fire 2,000 bullets and then stop. Riels can fire so many times without getting tired. How can this compare? The little snakes looked at this scene numbly, ready to accept the result. The difference was too big, and this was not an unfair loss. Pansy, what are you doing in your daze? Attack. What are you doing? What the hell is that Cassan over there? You stay away. What are you doing? Malfoy's eyes were red, and he pretended to be crazy and yelled at Pansy and Cassandra. It doesn't matter if he can't be a hidden prefect, but he will never accept Riels being a hidden prefect, absolutely not. Riels is a filthy mudblood, a filthy mudblood. Malfoy's roar attracted everyone's attention, and even made Pansy and Cassandra blush. Cassandra glanced at him coldly, and said calmly, "I withdraw from the selection of hidden prefects." After saying that, without waiting for anyone to react, she crossed her arms and walked out of the fluorescent circle, not caring whether the flying canary would hurt her. In fact, she was right. After she said she would give up, the canary disappeared without a trace, as if it had never appeared. In this regard, the little snakes were just sorry, but not surprised. Preserving oneself wisely is also a quality that Slytherins admire highly. If one continues to fight even though he knows he cannot defeat him, then he is not a Slytherin but a Gryffindor. Only by protecting yourself can you have the opportunity to do what you want to do. If you can't protect yourself, how can you talk about a great cause? Malfoy shouted with a ferocious look on his face, "Pansy! Come on, you are a noble pureblood, are you still afraid of him, a muggle-born wizard? Are you going to admit defeat like this woman? Pansy Parkinson, think of the honor of the Parkinson family." As soon as these words came out, both the little snakes and Pansy's expressions changed drastically. Some things are fine without mentioning the family, but once the family is mentioned, the meaning completely changes. Malfoy's words were like putting Pansy on the fire, so that she could only advance but not retreat. Once she admits defeat, she will be trampling on the honor of the Parkinson family, but how can she be Riels's opponent in beating her? "Mr. Malfoy, it seems that I really have to talk to Lucius and Narcissa. You really let me down." Snape stood up abruptly, looking directly at Malfoy with cold eyes, without any emotion in his voice. Malfoy was basically responsible for all the chaos in the hidden prefect selection, and now he even dared to use words to force others to fight to the death. It is hard to imagine that this is what the young master of the Malfoy family, one of the 28 pure blood families, can say. "Me." Malfoy shrank his neck in fear and took a few steps back, stammering and unable to speak a word. In fact, he regretted it after he said it, but the anger had already gone to his head, and there was no use regretting it anymore. Malfoy grimaced, and then looked sharply at Riels, the hatred in his eyes almost overflowing. "It's all because of this mudblood, it's all this mudblood's fault." Malfoy was extremely angry and revealed the reward, 1,000 gold galleons. Pansy hesitates +9, Cassandra regrets +12, others are disappointed +101. Why another 1,000 gold galleons? Nothing exploded. Is this the young master of the Malfoy family? Ha ha. Riels complained a few words in his mind, and after seeing that his emotional value had exceeded 2,500, he felt happy again. As long as there is emotional value, who cares what Malfoy reveals? If it doesn't come out, won't he buy it? But Riels put away his wand, walked up to Pansy who was struggling, raised his hand, and killed this Lolita with a tap on the head. "Why didn't I realize you were so stupid? This is just a selection of hidden prefects, not a duel for family glory. That idiot is so useless that he can only talk about being happy after being eliminated. Why do you even listen to his words? Why are you staring at me? Did I say something wrong?" Pansy glared at Riels again, and seeing that he still had no self-awareness, she had no choice but to reach out and shake off the hand that was rubbing her head. Although Riel's hands were warm and comfortable to be rubbed by him, there were too many people here, so couldn't he pay more attention? Pansy thought of this and took a few steps back, pretending not to be familiar with Riel's. I withdraw from the hidden prefect selection. Pansy, who was about to step out of the fluorescent circle, suddenly stopped and turned to Riel's. Mr. Thomas, I'm not stupid. I will tell Hermione whatever you said to me today. I think she will help me get justice. After, threatening, Riel's, Pansy walked out of the fluorescent circle with satisfaction, not forgetting to take a look at Malfoy on the way out. In this look, there was both disappointment and provocation for this friend who had grown up with him since childhood. Aren't you forcing me to fight to the death for the sake of family honor? I won't be fooled, so I will abstain in front of you. What can you do to me? Now that things have come to this point, there should be no little snake who would talk nonsense, and she doesn't feel that she has trampled on the honor of the Parkinson family. On the contrary, it was Draco Malfoy, whose appearance really damaged the honor of the Malfoy family. Gemma Farley waved her wand to disperse the fluorescent circle and said loudly, the selection for the first-year hidden prefect is over, and Riel's Thomas becomes the first-year hidden prefect. Your dormitory is in the second one in the corridor. Your luggage will be delivered to you by a house elf later. Pansy is happy +12, Cassandra is amused +9, Malfoy is angry +14, others are helpless +133. Riel's touched his nose and raised his eyebrows happily. Today is really a fruitful day. Not only did he gain more than 2,000 emotional points, he also received rewards such as gold galleons, and he also successfully had an independent dormitory. This was just the beginning of school, and he didn't dare to think about how wonderful his life would be in the future. Riel's was in a good mood, and his tone became much gentler. Senior Farley, you can just call me Riel's, my friends all call me that. Gemma Farley was very grateful for Riel's kindness. She nodded and said, Junior Riel's, you can also call me Gemma. Gemma's kindness +6, Pansy's anger +9. Riel's glanced at Pansy not far away and shook his head in amusement. The feelings in youth are the purest. If you like it, you just like it, if you want it, you just want it, and if you are angry, you are angry. It will not be mixed with anything else, and you will not tolerate changes because of anything. Mr. Thomas, if you encounter management problems, you can ask Miss Farley for advice. She is your senior sister and has been a hidden prefect for 5 years. For Merlin's sake, you should seriously ask her for advice. After Snape finished speaking, he looked around at the little snakes again. They all lowered their heads in fear, not daring to look at him. It's getting late. Let's all go and rest. I don't want to hear about Slytherin being deducted for anything tomorrow. Do you understand? Hearing this, the little snakes hurriedly said in unison, understood. Seeing this, Snape walked out of the common room quickly and resolutely, without even looking back. He now wants to go to Dumbledore and report about Riel's. He does not want to lead Riel's into the bottomless abyss due to wrong guidance. It wasn't until the door to the common room was closed for a while that the little snakes showed expressions of relief. Professor Snape's aura seems to be getting stronger again. I wonder which college will have a potions class tomorrow. I know their fate just by thinking about it. But how do I remember that potions class tomorrow is for first-year Slytherins and Gryffindors? Is it true? Are the unlucky ones around us? Oh, it's true. I will pray for them. The senior snakes all cast sympathetic glances at the first-year snakes. That's Professor Snape. Unlike other professors who only deduct points, he will not only deduct points, but also use words to severely degrade you. He will not let you go until he has devalued you so much that you doubt your life and feel that you are worthless. The little snakes, who were already angry because they were blasted by Riel's and ridiculed by him, all turned pale at this time. Now they all have to think, will tonight be their last natural sleep? Hey, go to bed early. If you're scared at night, you can knock on my door, although I may not be able to open it. Pansy's anger +14. The little girl is not big and has a bad temper, but he likes her. Bedroom. The dormitory of the Hidden Superior is no different in size from an ordinary dormitory, except that there are no roommates. There is a large bed, desk, chair, and a rather small wardrobe in the bedroom. The overall color is gray-green, giving it a depressing feeling. Should I say it or not, Slytherin's aesthetics are almost tasteless. Looking at the dark green things around him, Riels felt a deep sense of malice. Is it true that if you want to live a decent life, you must have some green on your head? Forget it, let the house elves tidy up again tomorrow. Should I say it, this bed is quite soft and it's a double bed, which is a good comment. Riels rolled around on the bed, squinting his eyes in enjoyment, and then began to check today's harvest. Emotional value balance. 2,531. Woohoo. Riels sat up excitedly. I can be considered a rich whore now. The system will open the mall for me. I want to spend money. 2,500 emotional points, which is neither too much nor too little, is almost the sum of his previous 2 years. But if we really talk about it, a better magic spell can cost tens of thousands of emotions, while ordinary magic spells need to be sold for a minimum of 1,000. I currently have no shortage of magic power. In terms of spells, what I lack are powerful spells, but I can't afford those spells. The same goes for other materials. I can't afford what I need, and I don't need what I can afford. And these talents can all be revealed from others. Riels looked through the mall and felt like he had nowhere to spend his money. His biggest shortcoming now is that he does not have a powerful spell, but he is not in a hurry to make up for this shortcoming. After all, there is no big danger in Hogwarts, and his current emotional value cannot buy a good spell. Thunderbolt explosions and magic spells such as Shenfeng Wuying and others require more than 5,000 emotion points. And even if you really buy it, there is no place to use it. You can't use it on the little snakes, right? He was a tool to increase the mood value, and his murderous intention was not that serious. What big mistake could he make if he couldn't make up for it by beating him 3 times a day? If there is, then simply letting them die would be an advantage for them. Riels frowned. System, do you have any recommendations? It is recommended that the host spends 2,500 emotion points to upgrade the system and unlock more functions. Note: after the system upgrade is completed, you will receive a generous upgrade gift package. Upgrade. The corners of Riel's mouth twitched a few times. He now seriously suspected that the system was trying to swallow his emotional value. But then I thought about it, the decision-making power was in his hands, and the system upgrade would only benefit him and not bring any harm. In line with the idea that if you get promoted early and get promoted late, you should enjoy it if you get promoted early and enjoy it early. Riels gritted his teeth and said, upgrade. If you cheat on my emotional value, don't even think about upgrading again in the future. Consumption of 2,500 emotional points, the system is being upgraded. Estimated upgrade completion, 24 hours. Note: you can obtain emotional points as usual during the upgrade, but you can no longer open the mall to purchase things. Looking at the double-digit emotional value and the 12-hour countdown, Riels lay down with an expressionless face and his heart was calm. In fact, he is very open-minded about this thing. System upgrades can bring him more benefits and will do him no harm at all. This emotional value must be spent, it's just a matter of time, so he won't feel so uncomfortable. The only thing that made him a little uncomfortable was the 24-hour countdown. It's all worth the emotion, but you didn't end it with the upgrade directly, and you made me wait to open the blind box, which is too much. Riels complained a few words about the system in his mind, then turned over and went to bed feeling very bachelor. If you have a bigger heart, you will sometimes have fewer worries, at least that's what he thinks. Principal room. Severus, for Merlin's sake, is there anything we can't talk about tomorrow? Dumbledore said with a tired face. You need to be more considerate and considerate of us elderly people. Who would be happy if they were sleeping soundly, only to be woken up by someone to talk about something? Anyway, he is not happy, well, very unhappy. Snape ignored his complaints and just frowned. Professor Dumbledore, have you checked the background of Riels Thomas? Is it really just an orphan from the Muggle world? Is it too much of a coincidence that he appears? Dumbledore pinched 2 strange flavored beans and gave Snape a shout out of habit. After being ignored, he stuffed them into his mouth. It's so funny that you don't want to eat him, there really isn't anyone who understands him. Minerva took care of that child. Judging from the information, he is just an ordinary orphan, a little naughty at most. I know what you are thinking, but Severus, you need to know your current identity. You are a professor at Hogwarts and the head of Slytherin. You should teach those little wizards and show them the right path, instead of doubting their identity. You are too vigilant. Dumbledore chewed the strange flavored beans and said happily, the chocolate flavor is just like the chocolate frog. It seems that my luck is still very good. To guide them to the right path. Snape lowered his head slightly, his eyes full of confusion. Professor Dumbledore, how did you guide that person back then? I don't mean anything else by asking this. It's just that Riels is very much like that person in terms of talent and background. You know who I'm talking about and what I mean. I want you to tell me how I can guide him to the right path. At the end of the sentence, Snape lowered his head in a rare gesture, looking like he was asking for advice. His main reason for coming here tonight was to seek advice from Dumbledore. Hogwarts already had a Dark Lord, and he didn't want another one to appear in his hands. Dumbledore's breath froze, his smile became stiff, and he said in disbelief, "You said he is very similar to that person, how similar is it?" They have the same origin as orphans, the same extremely high talents, and the same eagerness to learn. The only difference may be their personalities. Snape paused and continued. He likes to play pranks, and is extremely confident. He doesn't take purebloods seriously, and he's a little precocious. I think he might be harder to guide than that guy, and I can't see through his mind or the point of what he's doing. Hearing this, Dumbledore was unusually silent, his expression gloomy and uncertain. Snape didn't bother him when he saw this, he just stood there quietly waiting for an answer. After the atmosphere was silent for a moment, Dumbledore raised his head and said seriously, "You should not guess his purpose, nor should you think about the meaning of what he did. You are his teacher. All you have to do is try your best to teach him the right things. This is your responsibility. Severus, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in others, even if that person is still a child and has just met you. But you have to try to trust him and guide him as much as you can. I don't want you to follow my old path again." At the end of the sentence, Dumbledore couldn't hide the sadness in his eyes, and his whole person seemed to have suddenly aged several years. Snape was silent, quietly considering Dumbledore's words. After a moment, he turned and walked towards the door. "Professor Dumbledore, please rest first." Before Dumbledore could respond, he walked out of the headmaster's office resolutely and closed the door behind him. For a moment, only Dumbledore was left in the headmaster's office, and Fawkes, who was dozing with his butt propped up. Dumbledore stood up and walked to the window, looking at the bright moon hanging high in the night sky. He will be a good professor. I believe he won't go the way I did, and I believe that kid won't disappoint. Tiny murmurs echoed in the principal's office, but no one responded. Only Fawkes raised his eyelids, glanced at him, then turned around and continued to sleep. This old man has started to sleep again in the middle of the night. Will he let Phoenix have a good sleep? Early in the morning. The Hogwarts banquet hall is also the dining hall, where the little wizards have their 3 daily meals. All you have to do is say what you want to eat, and a house elf will make it in a short time, and then transfer it to the table through magic. In this regard, Riels just wanted to say, "The pig brains and roasted lamb kidneys I just ordered. Didn't I say they would be here in a while? Bad review." Pansy rolled her eyes at him speechlessly, picked up a chicken drumstick and stuffed it into his mouth. "I can't stop your mouth after eating. How come these things you want are available here? I've never heard of them. Don't be too outrageous." Riels gnawed on the chicken leg nonchalantly. "Just because you haven't heard of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Didn't I just try it just in case it really does exist? Bring me 2 more chicken legs. I consumed too much last night and am very hungry now." In fact, he didn't have any hope. He hadn't eaten these things in almost 10 years, and the people here would not eat them. Unless that house elf has learned Chinese food, the elves may have never heard of the things he ordered. Pansy glared at him angrily, but still reached out and brought him 2 chicken drumsticks, and hand-delivered them to the young master who couldn't take care of himself. Pansy is speechless +1, Cassandra is funny +6. Today is another day full of energy. Riels was in a very happy mood after successfully getting off to a good start, and the chicken drumsticks in his mouth seemed to taste even better. Seeing Cassandra looking at him, he reached out the half-eaten chicken leg very enthusiastically. "Want a bite?" Cassandra ignored him, silently stood up, took the plate and left. At the same time, she contributed more than 10 emotion points to Riel's, which made him almost whistle with joy. There are 2 mobile emotional power banks around him, and by teasing and joking, he can gain emotional points that he could not even imagine in the past 2 years. Is there anything better than this? Pansy explained the class schedule to Riel's while eating. Our first class is going to take Professor Flitwick's Charms class with Ravenclaw. He is also the Dean of Ravenclaw. I heard that he had won the duel competition before. The spells he taught were simple and terrifying, and his personality was very good, as long as you didn't deliberately anger him. In the afternoon, we have a potions class with Gryffindor. Professor Snape is teaching. Riel's gnawed on the chicken drumsticks, silently listened to Pansy's explanation, and was also thinking secretly. Flitwick knew that the only one who could compare to the champion of the dueling competition and the leading spellmaster in Hogwarts was Dumbledore. Of course, what we are talking about here is not strength, but the ability to know magic spells and the degree of proficiency in magic spells. Flitwick can be said to be a mobile encyclopedia of spells, which is one of the reasons why he became the headmaster of Ravenclaw. But he doesn't care about any of this. He only cares about what Flitwick can get out of him. If an existence of this level could explode something, it would most likely be a powerful magic spell, or even a talent that would increase the magic spell. But the question now is, how can he make Flitwick's mood fluctuate violently? You can't just ride on the dragon's face and crazily increase his hatred value, right? This method can increase the enemy's emotional value, but for someone like Flitwick, it doesn't work. The cost is not proportional to the gain. And Flitwick was a very respectable professor. In fact, most of the professors at Hogwarts were respectable. Except for some temporary workers, you say, Professor Quirrell. After thinking for a moment, Riel's eyes lit up. Maybe, I should try to convince him with knowledge. As the Dean of Ravenclaw, he should be very fond of the studious little wizard. Unfortunately, he has a photographic memory. During the half-year in Diagon Alley, I memorized all the first-grade courses. Isn't this a good student? After thinking of a way, Riel showed off 2 chicken legs again, and then walked into the spell classroom with Pansy when she looked at the rice bucket. It is worth mentioning that he had not seen the little angel Hermione all morning, and he could not find her even if he looked for her. But he wasn't worried. Nothing would happen to Hermione. It was most likely that she had already gone to the classroom. After all, it was Hermione. A true genius, and very eager to learn, a standard 3 good student. Charms classroom. When Riel's and Pansy arrived, there were already many people sitting in the classroom, including people from Ravenclaw and Slytherin. The former is studious and self-disciplined and has a strong desire for knowledge. In addition, this is their dean's class, so it is not unusual to arrive in the classroom early. The latter simply does not want to be compared. The Snake Academy must be strong throughout its life and cannot lose to other academies no matter what. It seems that we arrived very late, but it doesn't matter, our good friend Cassandra has already reserved a seat for us. Look, Pansy, this is a good friend. It's not like you. I'd be disgusted if I asked you to help me get a chicken drumstick. Cassandra and Pansy looked at each other and chose to ignore Riel's in perfect agreement. Riel sat between the two of them, and regardless of the fact that this was a table for 2, he was not angry when the 2 ignored him, but instead smiled. It doesn't matter if he ignores her, as long as he has a lot of emotion points. Just now, he showed more than 10 points of emotion points, so it's not for nothing that he shamelessly sits between these 2 people. How do you say that? A fish can't live without water, just like he can't live without these 2 little Lolita. What? Is this love story too greasy? Don't you feel greasy if you don't listen to love words? He was just stating the fact that the emotions of these 2 little Lolita were very explosive, and there were many explosive emotions. He still hopes to make a fortune from them and go straight to a well-off life. How can he leave? The class bell hasn't rang yet, and Flitwick hasn't arrived yet, so Riel starts his career to increase his mood value again. The 2 little Lolita were embarrassed and angry. Several times they wanted to change positions, but he stopped them every time with excuses. The 2 little Lolita had no choice but to selectively ignore him and silently read the books in their hands. Then in the magic classroom, a scene appeared that frequently raised eyebrows. I saw a boy sitting between 2 stunning little Lolita, teasing them endlessly, even if they didn't respond. Riel's Malfoy clenched his fists, his eyes were a little dark, and his eyes were bloodshot. It was obvious that he had not slept well last night. It was no wonder that he could sleep well. Those things that happened yesterday were a shame that he had never experienced before. But he experienced so many things at once yesterday. If he could still sleep, he would probably give up hope. Just wait, by noon, I will wash away all the shame. As if he had thought of something, Malfoy smiled again, his eyes full of expectation. Malfoy's anger +10, anticipation +14, Pansy's shyness +9, and Cassandra's helplessness +8. Riels glanced sideways at Malfoy and ignored him. He was in a happy mood now, which was worth more than his emotional value. He was about to gain over 100 emotional points today. As the saying goes, Hogwarts is paradise. If someone can't say it well, he or she will be in a hurry. At this moment, the door to the cursed classroom was opened, and a short figure came out from the outside. Sorry kids, something happened on the way and I'm late. While saying apologetic words, Flitwick quickly walked to the podium and cast a spell to send himself to the podium to stand. Chapter 51. I am your charms professor, Phileas Flivy. In the next few years, if nothing happens, I will be the one teaching you. Charms class is a very interesting course. You can learn many magic spells here, such as the levitation spell we are going to learn in today's first lesson. Flitwick stood on the podium, waved his wand a few times, and murmured a spell, Wingardium Leviosa. The next moment, a large spell book slowly floated into the air under the gaze of everyone. This scene caused a lot of discussion among the little wizards. Only a few pure-blood little wizards looked disdainful. They had learned this kind of spell long ago. The floating spell has many functions. You must learn to apply what you have learned. Later, Flitwick explained at the lectern, and the little wizards below all listened carefully, and no one made any move. Riels rubbed his chin, and after listening to Flitwick's explanation, a look of understanding flashed in his eyes. He had read an introduction to the floating spell. It was written in the book, but there was no spell on it. Now that the spell has been supplemented, it is not difficult to cast it. This spell is very simple. You can try to make the feathers float first. Flitwick waved his wand, causing the feathers on the lecterns to float down to the little wizards below. There was a feather on each table. Perhaps because he noticed that there were 3 people on Riel's side, or for some other reason, 2 feathers floated towards their table. Riels was not surprised by this, and just looked at Flivy with gratitude. He is now a good student, so he must respect his teachers. Flitwick is satisfied +7, curious +6. There's drama. Riels raised the corners of his lips. It was exactly what he thought. To increase Flitwick's emotional value, he only needed to be a good student. I have learned this spell. Do you want me to teach it to you? Of course, Cassandra should be able to do it. It's the same thing if you ask her to teach you. Pansy said while waving her wand with a smile, Wingardium Leviosa. As her spell fell, the feathers on the table slowly floated into the air and dangled in front of Riel's eyes like a provocation. Although Cassandra on the other side did not speak, she waved her wand a few times and chanted a spell to make the remaining feather float. The 2 women looked at each other and looked at Riel's. They couldn't hide the amusement on their faces, and of course they had no intention of hiding it. Pansy's anticipation +9, teasing +6, Cassandra's teasing +9, anticipation +9. Ignoring the system's prompts, Riels raised his eyebrows, looking left at Pansy and right at Cassandra. The 2 little Lolita looked so embarrassed that they couldn't even maintain the floating spell, and the feathers fell back to the desk. I didn't think I said I couldn't do the levitating spell, right? Well, it's not wrong to say I can't. At least I couldn't do it before this class. Before the 2 little girls could ask any more questions, Riels picked up the wand and tapped the table, Wingardium Leviosa. It was a familiar spell, except that the person who cast it was replaced by Riels, but what remained the same was the feathers floating from the table. The difference is that it is not 1 feather that floats, but 2 feathers that float together. This scene immediately stunned the 2 little Lolita, and also surprised the people who had been observing the movements here. Pansy is shocked +10, Cassandra is shocked +10, Flitwick is surprised +12, Malfoy is jealous +9. Comfortable. Riels narrowed his eyes comfortably, then waved his wand gently, and as if on command, 2 feathers floated directly in front of the 2 astonished women. Before the 2 women could wonder what Riels wanted to do, they felt the tips of their noses itching, causing them to sneeze uncontrollably. The sound of sneezing immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the classroom, making the 2 little Lolita angry and embarrassed. Riels looked like he wanted to stab him. Pansy is embarrassed and angry +1 2, Cassandra is embarrassed and annoyed +1 2, Flitwick is surprised +9, funny +8, others are confused +51, jealousy +1 1. Don't think that I won't know who is jealous without naming him, right? White-haired young Master Malfoy. Why are you looking at me? I think you got cold last night, so you sneeze. Do you want me to go to Professor Snape and apply to let you move into my dormitory together? Of course, I mean you have to use the floor. Riels said seriously. You don't need to thank me, this is what I should do as a hidden prefect. Again, Flitwick's rewards must be earned, but the rewards of the 2 little Lolita must be earned even more, and they must be earned fiercely. What, will it destroy the 2 little Lolita brushes? Don't worry about this, he is measured and will ensure that they won't be ruined. When Pansy and Cassandra heard this, their faces turned green and red, and their eyes looking at Riels became more gloomy and terrifying. Riels touched his nose. This is just a suggestion. If it doesn't work out, I can squeeze in with you. It will be warmer if there are more people. Pansy was extremely embarrassed and revealed the reward, 100 gold galleons. Cassandra was extremely embarrassed and revealed the reward, top-grade herbalism talent. Although he got the reward as he wished, Riels had no time to be happy. The system prompt told him that the 2 little Lolita were about to explode. His first priority is to let them reduce their anger. Well, how to reduce it specifically? How about, you sleep on the bed and I make the floor. Then you have to make sure you don't step on me when you get up. Ahem, it's just a joke, don't take it seriously. By the way, Professor Flitwick, I still have some questions about this floating spell and I want to ask. Seeing the faces of the 2 little Lolita becoming more and more gloomy, Riels quickly changed the subject. It's so funny, as long as the topic changes quickly enough, their anger won't burn me. Disaster always slows me down, squall. Professor Flitwick, what is the maximum object that can be controlled by the levitation spell? How many objects can it be controlled at most? Is there any way to enhance the accuracy of control? Like a studious student, Riels asked all the questions he had about the floating spell. In fact, he really wanted to know this, because it represented the upper limit of the floating spell. If the controlled object is large enough, it means that he has enough magic power and can directly move a mountain. Who can withstand this? If you control enough things, you can carry 180 blades with you and perform a rainstorm for no nose. Then he said something very convincing. Sir, times have changed. If the control is more precise, then he can try to use the floating spell to create a magical version of sword flying. Without changing the size of the object, if you just use the sword as a pedal, it is not impossible to fly with the sword by relying on the floating spell. Of course, the premise of all this is that the floating spell can accurately control objects, consume not too much magic power, and various factors are indispensable. As for why you want to fly with a sword, well, he couldn't afford to buy or raise a giant dragon in a short period of time, so he had to consider finding another way to travel. Of course, who hasn't dreamed of flying with a sword? Moreover, while others are riding broomsticks and beating chickens with flying eggs, you stand on the flying sword, and stand on the immortal style, and your strength rises in an instant. As the same saying goes, foiling depends entirely on the foiling of peers. Pansy and Cassandra looked at Riels quietly, their faces expressionless, as if they were looking at a dead person. Although some people are still alive, they are actually dead. Although some people are dead, their death is not thorough enough. They don't suggest helping him, they will let him die completely. Pansy's resentment +1 2, funny +9, Cassandra's shame +13, funny +4, Flitwick's suspicion +1 0, admiration +1 2. Among the family members who have solved the case, Pansy is easier to coax, and Cassandra is more difficult to coax, but this may be due to the length of time they have known each other. Well, although he and Pansy had not known each other for a long time, it was not an exaggeration to say that he was thick-skinned, and coupled with the good impression he had gained in the lake, their relationship had improved by leaps and bounds. You think so, Master Malfoy, whose white hair has turned green? The levitating spell controls the weight and quantity of objects, depending on how much magic power the person casting the spell has injected into it. The more magic power you inject, the more objects you can control and their weight, but I don't recommend you do this. Flitwick stroked his gray beard. The levitating spell is a magic spell for daily use. There is no need to waste your time on it. But given your good performance and unique ideas, I decided to add 10 points to Slytherin. Flitwick is satisfied +1-4, others are surprised +3-1, jealous +2-4, unconvinced +4-7. Riels didn't pay attention to the system's words, but lowered his head and thought seriously. What Flitwick said confirmed that his first two ideas were feasible, but the latter, flying with a sword, was hopeless. It's not that it can't be controlled, it's just that after controlling it, there are problems with the flight speed and control, so there is no hope. After a while, he raised his head and said seriously, Professor Flitwick, I don't think that magic spells should be defined. They need to be explored and improved by future generations, right? There are no useless spells, there are just wizards who don't know how to use and improve them. He didn't mean this to be adulterous, nor did he mean to deliberately increase his emotional value, but he said it sincerely. The wizarding world has existed for so many years, how many spells are there? How many wizards are creating or improving spells? Or who wants to improve the curse? In fact, if many spells are improved, they will become extremely powerful spells, such as 10,000 bullets. Who stipulates that it can only condense canaries? Why can't it condense magic bullets? Or maybe a flying knife? Or is it something more lethal? Will it still be this magic spell that acts as a firework? It's just a change in the condensed form. It's still essentially a volley of thousands of bullets, but the effect is completely different. Or maybe it's a black dragon coming out of its hole. Who said that the form it condenses can only be a black poisonous snake? Aren't basilisks also snakes? Once these magic spells are improved, will they be weaker than Shen Feng Wayang? Will it be weaker than a thunderbolt explosion? Even if it's really not comparable, it won't be much worse. There are many similar spells like this. Although it is difficult to improve, there is always a chance, right? For example, Snape created the upside-down golden bell and the shadowless blade. Is it easier to improve magic spells than to create them? If you can create, why can't you improve? As long as you have enough understanding of the curse and enough patience, none of this is impossible, and Snape proved it. Charm's classroom. There was silence in the spacious classroom, and everyone including Professor Flitwick was thinking carefully about what Riels had just said. There are no useless spells, only wizards who don't know how to use and improve them. This sentence may not be accurate, but it is undeniable that the meaning in this sentence is correct. Especially Flitwick, as a well-known master of magic, he believed that his understanding of magic was as good as anyone else. But he has never thought about improving these curses, even if he has the ability. Preconceptions are always scary, and even he is not immune to them. In other words, there is no wizard who has overcome preconceptions, not even Dumbledore. Flitwick was full of surprises, and as if inspired by the gods, he revealed a reward, a top-grade magic talent. Pansy is surprised +1-1, Cassandra is thinking +1-2, Malfoy is angry +1-0, others are shocked +1-1-1, and thinking is +9-6. Woohoo! Take off! The reward this time really surprised Riels, not only because of his words, but also because of the luxury of the reward. The top-grade magic talent. Just by the name, you can tell that it is very good, but how good it is exactly will not be known until the system is updated. Not to mention the emotional value of a small 200. It is no exaggeration to describe this wave as taking off. I think you are right, Mr. Thomas. We did not step out of our preconceptions. Thank you for waking us up. Flitwick smiled and waved his hand and said, I declare, Slytherin +30 points, extra points for Mr. Thomas. In fact, according to him, even 180 points is not an exaggeration. Riels has awakened not only him, but the entire wizarding world. If someone really works hard to improve these spells, then the wizarding world may become colorful again, and many novel spells will appear. This is no less than a shot in the arm for the already somewhat declining wizarding world. After hearing Flitwick's words, the little snakes immediately cheered and were so excited that they couldn't help themselves. It's just the first day of school, and Riels has earned 40 house points for Slytherin. If this momentum continues, will the house cup be far behind? The little eagles looked at the cheering little snakes with some envy, but no one felt jealous, just a little envious. For those of them who are thirsty for knowledge, Riels's proposal adds another path to take and another pursuit. Pansy's excitement +1, Cassandra's pleasure +10, Malfoy's jealousy +13, Flitwick's excitement +18, others' surprise +121, envy +101. Hogwarts is truly a paradise for improving your mood. Riels narrowed his eyes comfortably, and after chatting with Professor Flitwick for a few more words, he sat back down. The two little Lolita who were originally planning to help him die now lost their anger and looked happy. Pansy held her chin and looked sideways at Riels. I don't know how you can say such things and have such a good idea. I mean, that's not really something you would say. In her understanding, Riels is a kind of person who looks very like the sky, the earth, and the air. But he was very measured and would not make people really angry. Of course, when he was really angry, he would definitely change the subject, like just now. But overall, Riels seems very arrogant in her eyes, but he is actually a very gentle person. She still remembered the hand Riels extended to her and the words he said to her on the boat. Everything that was familiar seemed to have happened yesterday. Well, in fact it did happen yesterday. Because of that incident, she wasn't too angry just now. At most, she just wanted him to die. Now what Riels said has refreshed her understanding of him. Maybe he has a side that others can't see. Compared to Pansy's surprise, Cassandra was much calmer. After all, she had already heard Riels' shocking words at Flourish and Blott's bookstore. However, what Riels said now still surprised her, and it was not in vain that she came to Hogwarts to attend school. Riels rolled his eyes. That's what you said, don't say it next time, otherwise you will be easily beaten. What does it mean that he doesn't look like someone who can say these things? He obviously has a lot of depth, right? Pansy and Cassandra looked at each other, raising the corners of their lips and almost laughing. Riels is actually quite interesting, at least that's what they think. Pansy is happy +11, Cassandra is happy +11. During the rest of the charms class, Professor Flitwick carefully explained the techniques for using the levitation charm and what to pay attention to. It has to be said that a master of spells is a master of spells. What Professor Flitwick said was very useful to Riels, and his understanding of the levitating spell has improved to a new level. The class passed quietly in a lively atmosphere. Hogwarts has 2 classes a day, so the end of get out of class means it's noon, well, lunchtime. The 3 of them took the spell book and stood up together to walk outside the classroom. Riels licked the corner of his mouth, wondering if those house elves got what he wanted to eat. Every meal was filled with bread and so on. He had really eaten enough. Riels Thomas. The sudden shout made the 3 Riels stop and turned around to see the 3 Malfoy brothers standing behind them. Riels raised his eyebrows. I almost forgot, I have to duel with you today, right? Hurry up, I'm still in a hurry, and the chicken drumsticks might not be fresh if I get there late. Oh, by the way, we are going to duel at the entrance of the banquet hall. It's just right. After the duel, we can go directly to show off our dinner. To be honest, he really didn't take this duel to heart. He was still thinking about using this matter to increase his emotional value. But after tasting the beauty of Hogwarts, he actually looked down on the emotional value. It was something he could take or not take. Of course, the emotional value comes to your door. Is there any reason to not want it? Malfoy is angry +12, frustrated +10, Pansy is helpless +9, Cassandra is amused +9, others are angry +15. Riels turned his head to look at the 2 little Lolita, and his reaction to them was a little strange. Pansy was fine, but it was understandable that she was helpless. After all, Malfoy was her friend before, and then Cassandra. Why did he play with it every time? Really, Cassandra Worley, I didn't get a good rest last night. The duel will be postponed to tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow. I'll let someone tell you the details. Don't think I'm afraid of you. I just haven't had a good rest and am in low spirits. Don't run away. Before Malfoy could finish his words, Riels turned around and walked away. He didn't even give him a look in the middle, but just waved. This perfunctory attitude almost made him angry, and he became even more resentful towards Riels. Malfoy clenched his fist angrily. You can't be arrogant for long. I will repay you with double the shame. Let's go. Find that person. I don't believe he will let me go next time. Snort. Malfoy snorted coldly, turned around and left with Goyle and Crabbe. Malfoy's anger plus 13, others' resentment plus 1/8. Well, today's lunch is no longer available to them, so I'm very resentful. Banquet hall. Gryffindor's table. Do you know how scared I was? Oh my god, that cat turned out to be Professor McGonagall. Her transformation skills are really amazing. I almost wanted to touch it, but luckily I held it back, otherwise it would have been much worse. Ronald chewed on the chicken drumstick while complaining to Harry Potter. In this regard, Harry Potter, who was also a victim, nodded with deep sympathy. At that time, he almost went up to pet the cat. Fortunately, he was afraid of strangers and did not go up. Otherwise, it would be exactly as Ronald said, and the situation would be very bad. Professor McGonagall is an animagus. What she casts is not transformation, but her animagus form. Riels told me about this. Of course, animagus is also a type of transformation, but it is the most advanced form of transformation, and it has gone beyond the scope of transformation. Hermione swallowed what was in her mouth and corrected her seriously with bright eyes. Ronald curled his lips disdainfully. As much as you know. He disliked this pushy girl very much, and so did the Riels she spoke of. What kind of good wizard can be a wizard who can enter Slytherin? He will definitely be a dark wizard in the future. If Harry Potter hadn't dragged him over to sit, he wouldn't have chosen to sit next to Hermione. I don't know much, I just know more than some people. Mr. Potter, what question did you just want to ask me? Hermione wiped the corners of her lips gracefully, with no trace of annoyance on her face. After spending more time with Riels, she no longer cared about Ronald's indifferent words. She doesn't need other people's approval, or someone has already recognized her, and she no longer needs other people's approval. Ronald suddenly felt that the chicken legs in his mouth no longer tasted good. He widened his eyes in annoyance. You. Ronald. Sorry Miss Granger, Ronald didn't mean that. I hope you don't blame him. After Harry Potter apologized, he looked around a few times and said in a somewhat unspeakable voice, I want to ask you, what is said in that book, you know? I've searched all over the freshman class, and it's not like there's no one who meets the requirements, but that person is a man. Is there an error in the information in that book? To this day, he doesn't think the content in that book is false. It's not that I didn't suspect it, but it's that most of the descriptions of Hogwarts are true. For example, Hogwarts has a dirty, singing sorting hat, or those ghosts that appear at the opening party. These things that really appeared in front of him made him believe in the book. Of course, it also contained his own expectations. He hopes that thing is true, he hopes that he can learn about his parents, and he hopes to have a real family. What's the matter? Who are you looking for? Harry, I think I can help you find him. You know that my brothers and sisters are all at Hogwarts. Ronald put down the drumstick unhappily. We're friends, do you remember? He didn't like it when Harry Potter kept secrets from him, especially when it was known to others but not to him. This made him feel a little disparate and very uncomfortable. Harry Potter apologized. Sorry Ronald, I will tell you what happened when I get back, but not here. Hermione frowned, with a tangled look on her face, not sure whether to tell the truth or not. Didn't I say it before? Wild history, and wild history must be wild enough, but not true. Actually, it's very simple to verify whether it's true. Isn't that person's mother's name written on it? Can't you just ask someone to find out? The familiar voice and tone made Hermione's eyes light up, and she quickly stood up and turned around to confirm. Upon seeing this, Harry Potter and Ronald also stood up and turned to look. When they saw the person coming, Harry Potter was overjoyed and opened his mouth to ask something. But before he could say anything, Hermione rushed out like a nestling. Riels, I thought you weren't coming for lunch, I didn't even see you in the morning. Why haven't you seen Pansy? Didn't she come with you? Did you bully her? Riels's smile suddenly stiffened after a series of questions. Little angel, his little angel has changed. He is sad, very sad. He will definitely ask Pansy to get him 2 big chicken legs later to soothe his injured heart. Of course, if Cassandra could feed him, it would be more soothing to his wounded heart. What, is it bad to be too astringent at a young age? Come on, he is over 30 in his past and present lives combined, and this is not sassy, at most, nurture, at most just a nurturance. He has always believed in the saying, strike first to gain advantage, strike later to suffer disaster. Take action in advance and kill everyone. When they all reach puberty, they will be surprised to find that their goddesses are already in the shape of Riels. Hermione is happy +9, Harry Potter is excited +9, Ronald is jealous +10. Very good, as expected of Ronald, he did not disappoint. Jealousy, it still goes straight to 10 o'clock, it's really Ronald. It seems that he will have one more tool to increase his mood value in the future. Riels raised his eyebrows and turned his head to ignore Harry Potter and Ronald. Well, he wasn't prepared to pay attention to them, or rather Ronald. He looked at Hermione and said speechlessly, "Do you think I am this kind of person? Pansy and Cassandra are looking for a place. They don't like coming here. You know why. Pansy asked me to say hello to you on her behalf." Hermione rolled her eyes, her expression a little subtle, as if she had thought of something, and became a little solemn again. She turned her head to look at Harry Potter, Ronald, and a few little lion cubs who were joining in the fun, then turned back and whispered, "Who didn't come to trouble you? If it doesn't work, let's go to Professor McGonagall. I believe she will help us solve this problem." She didn't know Riel's magnificent record of defeating the first-year Slytherin snakes last night. She only knew that Riels was born as a muggle like her, and although he had learned some spells in Diagon Alley, he was definitely no match for Malfoy. Sometimes I have to admit that there is a huge difference between pure blood, mixed blood and muggle-born, at least the starting points are different. Hermione is worried +13, others are confused +27. The little angel is indeed a little angel. One person can beat so many people. Tisk, the gap is really not even a tiny bit. But he also knew that this was also the reason why he didn't have a deep relationship with the little lions. Unlike those little snakes, they hated him so much that their explosive emotional value was considerable. Riels rubbed his nose. He said he didn't get enough rest and it was postponed. "Harry, remember what I just said. Go find someone and ask, what if you really find it? By the way, let me see who it is. You know him? Maybe you should ask him. Maybe there will be a surprise." Well, it could also be a shock, a complete shock. Riels didn't say the last sentence. It's good that you know this kind of thing, but it would be pointless to say it out. The corners of Hermione's lips twitched a few times, and she looked at Harry Potter with some confusion. She wanted to say something several times, but she held it back. Finally she gave up and just turned around and rolled her eyes at Riels angrily to express her dissatisfaction. In this regard, Riels chose to pretend not to see it. Things have come to this point, and we have to gain more and more. Harry Potter's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Riels, why didn't I think of that? I will go find him and ask. Why didn't he think of this? The man looked so similar to the description, he must be related, maybe even a relative." Thinking of this, Harry Potter raised his head and looked around the banquet hall, but did not see the very conspicuous person. He could only hang his head in disappointment. Ronald clenched his fists, glanced at Riels and Hermione angrily, turned to Harry Potter and said, "Harry, who are you looking for? I think I could really help you, if you tell." Harry Potter is grateful +11, Ronald is jealous +13, and Hermione is happy +10. Riels, who was listening to Hermione share her daily life, glanced at Ronald and stopped paying attention to him. As I said before, he is just a tool to increase his emotional value. How can he compare with a little angel? For him to look twice was a sign of disrespect for Hermione. "I think you should really see Professor McGonagall's transformation. It's really hard to find any flaws." After sharing all the trivial things that happened after enrolling in school, Hermione stopped telling contentedly, and then suddenly remembered something, and her beautiful eyes suddenly lit up. "Should we take potions class together in the afternoon?" Riels touched the tip of his nose. "It is true that we are going together, but you should be careful in class. Professor Snape has a bad temper, you know." Snape. It's really hard to evaluate him. I can only say that he is a qualified dean, a competent professor, and a top potion master. Although his personality and behavior are somewhat unpleasant, it is undeniable that he is not bad at heart and is completely mean-spirited. After some conversation, Riels left under Hermione's reluctant eyes. During this period, he invited Hermione to dine together at the Slytherin table, but unfortunately she refused. What? Does he want to try what it feels like to feed 3 little Lolita together? Let me clarify, this is not a rumor. Riels, whose mood had once again surged to 40 or 50, came to Slytherin's dining table in a happy mood, and then moved himself between the 2 little Lolita without any hesitation. Although I didn't succeed in kidnapping Hermione, don't worry, there will be bread and abalone. As long as I'm not in a hurry, then I'm not in a hurry. As soon as Riels sat down, Pansy asked, "How is Hermione? Why didn't you see her this morning?" Cassandra ate in silence. She didn't know Hermione and had never met her, so she didn't interrupt. You know, she has always been a studious person. When we came in the morning, she had already finished breakfast and went to the classroom. Riels just finished speaking and pointed to the chicken legs not far away. The loli cultivation plan has started. What? Started already? Then go ahead and do it. Seeing this, Pansy rolled her eyes and complained helplessly, "Can't you reach out by yourself when we are so close?" Having said that, she still reached out and helped Riels get 2 chicken drumsticks. There was nothing she could do about it. After getting along for a short time, she already knew Riels very well. If she doesn't take it, who knows what Riels will do. Didn't I tell you? The chicken drumsticks you get taste better. Riels joked a few more times, which made Pansy's face turn red and she rolled her eyes at him angrily. Cassandra looked at the interaction between the two. A complex look flashed in her emerald eyes, which was both helpless and a touch of envy. It's not that I'm envious of anything else, I'm just envious of the relaxed way Riels and Pansy get along. Who doesn't long for a true friend? No matter how proud you are still a human being. Pansy is angry +1 embarrassed +10, Cassandra is envious +9, funny +8. Riels glanced sideways at Cassandra, but didn't see anything strange on her face. If it weren't for the systematic prompts, he would really have been deceived by Cassandra's appearance. But he wasn't going to say anything. For a proud person like Cassandra, the right choice is for you to get along with her normally. If you are self-righteous and point it out, good results will definitely not happen. Of course, you still need to get along with each other where necessary. Like, can you get me the pumpkin juice? You know the chicken drumsticks are a little salty today. As soon as Riels said this, Pansy was about to complain, but her eyes subconsciously looked for pumpkin juice, but she realized it immediately. Pumpkin juice was not on her side, and Riels was not speaking to her, but to Cassandra. Pansy's little mouth opened slightly and she looked at Riels in surprise. Merlin's beard, he actually dared to let Cassandra feed him. That's Cassandra, the proud Miss Worley. Cassandra was also a little confused. She asked tentatively, are you talking to me? Seriously, if someone had said these words to her, and she would have taken out her wand and wanted to duel by now, that person must be deliberately humiliating her. But with Riels, well, it somehow makes sense, like this is what he would do. Cassandra was silent for a while, and just when Pansy was worried that she would get angry and was about to speak up to smooth things over, she saw her reaching out to pick up the pumpkin juice and put it in front of Riels. Panzigan fell silent at this moment. She looked at the cheerful Riels and then at the plain-faced Cassandra, and suddenly felt that she was making a fuss out of a molehill. Although Riels is always on the verge of death, he is still alive, right? This shows that he is very measured. Pansy felt relieved, curled her lips and said, "Drink slowly, don't choke." Cassandra is happy +9, funny +8, Pansy is angry +11, helpless +9. Riels raised his eyebrows but did not answer. He just concentrated on chewing the chicken legs and took a few sips of the sweet pumpkin juice from time to time. Overall, the games just now are quite sufficient, not in terms of emotional value, but in terms of Cassandra starting to integrate with them. Although Cassandra didn't say it before, there was always an invisible membrane between them, and now this membrane was pierced by him. He stabbed her hard and killed her into pieces. The meal ended in a quiet but eerie atmosphere. On the way to the potions classroom, Pansy couldn't help but said, "Why don't you ask Hermione to come with you? We are taking this class together. I asked you to help me say hello to you, did you convey it? You weren't afraid that I would sue you, so you didn't say anything, were you? Still need to file a complaint." Before he spoke, Hermione began to wonder if he was bullying Pansy. If he complained again, I don't dare to think about it, I don't dare to think about it at all. Riels touched his nose and suddenly felt that his training plan had to be changed. Otherwise, they will develop it, but then turn around and digest it internally, which will be great fun. Riels shook his head and said helplessly, "How heinous am I in your eyes? Hermione eats early. She had almost finished eating when I passed by. She is probably sitting in the potions classroom by now. Pansy is funny +10, Cassandra is happy +9. Potions classroom." When the three Riels arrived, there were already many people sitting in the classroom, most of whom were Slytherin snakes. They really didn't mean to compete with the little lions this time, mainly because the potions professor was Snape, their head of Slytherin. Coupled with what happened last night, they didn't dare to be negligent at all, lest last night be their last natural sleep. Riels looked at Hermione, who was immersed in reading. "I think if we squeeze together, a table should be able to sit, 4 people." Cassandra and Pansy ignored his words in perfect agreement and walked straight to the table next to Hermione. Riels raised his eyebrows. "It's really fast to adapt to this, and now I'm immune to such words." After sighing, Riels stepped forward to follow the two little Lolita. Although they couldn't squeeze into the same table, it was good to be close to each other. And he was just giving it a casual glance. After all, this lesson was for Snape, the walking bat, so this would definitely cause problems. It's just a pity. He also wanted to try to see how much emotion the three little Loli can bring out for him when they get together. Now it seems he can only wait until next time. Big quilt. Bah. The three little ones gather together. "Here I come. Is there anyone at this location?" The sudden sound did not attract Hermione's attention, and she just shook her head in response to the question, her attention still on the book. She had heard that Snape was very strict, so she would take this opportunity to review the previous content and help Riels answer questions if necessary. "Pansy, it seems we are not welcome. Let's go somewhere else." The familiar voice and name made Hermione raise her head suddenly, and sure enough, she saw Riels standing in front of the table looking at her with a half smile. Behind him stood a helpless Pansy and another beautiful little girl she had never seen before. Hermione stood up excitedly. "Riels. Pansy. It's really you." This startled breath attracted the attention of everyone in the classroom. The little snakes who were disturbed wanted to be angry, but when they saw it was Riels, their anger immediately subsided. As much as they hated to admit it, they were a little afraid of Riels, especially in such a public place. If Riels beats them up again, they will definitely become the laughingstock of the little lions and even the entire Hogwarts. The little lions were playing around and just glanced at Hermione's exclamation and ignored it. Hermione is excited +11, Pansy is helpless +9, Cassandra is curious +9, and the others are frustrated +6-7. Another considerable emotional value, so cool. Riels unceremoniously sat next to Hermione, while Pansy and Cassandra sat at another table nearby. "I think you should keep your voice down, those little snakes are just trying to hold on to their feet." Hermione lowered her head apologetically. "I was too excited just now, so it shouldn't have affected them, right?" As she spoke, the apology in her eyes deepened. After all, it is indeed immoral to disturb other people's studies. Cassandra said calmly, "I don't think you need to feel guilty. There is no class yet and this is not a library." Pansy nodded in agreement. Seeing Hermione's confusion, she reacted and introduced, "This is Cassandra Worley, a first-year Slytherin freshman. She did not attend the sorting ceremony for some special reasons, so you may not have seen her. This is Hermione Granger, the one I told you about. She was assigned to Gryffindor. She is a very smart little wizard." Cassandra and Hermione looked at each other and nodded politely to each other. This was the first time Hermione had met Cassandra, or even heard her name. But this wasn't the first time Cassandra had heard of Hermione, not only from Pansy, but also from Riels. Both of them spoke surprisingly highly of Hermione, and both said she was a very good person. Now that she saw the real person, Cassandra was still very satisfied. Pansy and Riel's didn't lie. Hermione is very beautiful and has a good personality. Her behavior just now proved that she is very kind and that she is the kind of person you can have a close relationship with. Hey, I think you should open the potion book. Professor Snape does things vigorously and resolutely. He will definitely come in with the bell ringing. As soon as Riel's finished speaking, as if he was trying to answer his words, there was a sound of the school bell ringing. The door to the potions classroom was pushed open suddenly. Snape walked quickly, and the black wizard kept flying as he ran. Cassandra is surprised +7, Pansy is happy +9, Hermione is happy +11. Don't wave your wands, cast your stupid spells, or do anything you think is smart during my class. Potion science is very advanced. I don't think any of you can learn it, but there are always some people who are willing to learn it, and I can also teach it. I can teach you how to increase your reputation, brew glory, and even prevent death. Snape finished speaking coldly and glanced at the young wizards below with his sharp eyes. Whether it was the Gryffindor lion cub or the Slytherin snake, they all lowered their heads and did not dare to look at them after meeting his gaze. Even someone as proud as Cassandra turned her head away uncomfortably. There was nothing I could do about it. Snape's eyes were so cold, as if there were thousands of years of ice in them that couldn't be melted away. Just looking at each other made me feel chilled all over. In the entire classroom, Riel's was the only one who could look at him without hesitation and even waved hello, like a conspicuous person. The fact that Riel's is like this does not mean that he has been a man of 2 lifetimes and has a mature mind. To be honest, even a mature adult might not be able to look at Snape. The reason why he could look at Snape without hesitation was because he was not afraid, and he also sympathized with Snape. Snape's experience is really, a table full of cups can't be described. It was precisely because he knew what happened to Snape, understood why Snape became like this, and understood that Snape's intentions were not bad. So he dared to look at Snape and even greeted him warmly. Of course, it was unclear whether this enthusiasm was considered enthusiasm in Snape's eyes. Anyway, he was indeed greeting him enthusiastically. Snape is displeased +1 too. Riel's mouth twitched a few times as he solved the case. In Snape's view, his enthusiasm was probably provocation. Mr. Thomas, don't make any small moves in class. 5 points will be deducted from Slytherin. Snape finished speaking vigorously, then turned to look at the good student Harry Potter who was immersed in taking notes, and walked quickly to stand in front of his desk. Don't do anything you think is smart. Didn't Mr. Potter hear what I said? Harry Potter pointed to the notebook and wanted to explain. Professor, I am taking notes, I am not. It seems that Mr. Potter is very studious, so I will give Mr. Potter a test. Snape paused, then a hint of complexity flashed in his eyes. What will I get if I add narcissus root powder to mugwort infusion? Harry Potter hesitated for a long time but couldn't come up with an answer. Riel's blocked Hermione who wanted to raise her hand, and shook his head in her doubtful eyes. This question is best answered by Harry Potter. He doesn't know that Professor Snape will also tell the answer, so let's not interrupt. Snape's 3 questions were not simple. This was a conversation that not many people could understand. Even Harry Potter, who was being asked questions, couldn't understand the hidden meaning of Snape's questions. What do you get if you add narcissus root powder to mugwort infusion? The answer is the water of life and death. Narcissus is a type of lily, and lily's name means lily. The flower language of Narcissus is, I will never be able to shake off my regret for you until the day I die. Wormwood also represents not being around. The combination of the two represents the water of life and death, and also means that life is worse than death. The combination of these 2 forms. Lily, I regret your death so much. The remaining 2 questions are easier to explain. If I asked you to find a piece of bezoar, where would you find it? What is the difference between Aconitum spp. And Aconitum lupus? The function of bezoar is an antidote, which means to relieve the pain of the previous problem. The flower language of wolfsbane flower is to live for love. 3 short questions, but they fully revealed Snape's greatest regret and the pain that accompanied him throughout his life. Of course, this is also his speculation after reading the potions book and combining it with the contents of the original work. Only Snape himself may know whether this is the case. The three women all looked sideways at Riels, their eyes full of doubts. According to what they knew about Riels, he didn't seem to be such an honest person, and his behavior just now didn't seem like he was afraid of Snape. Then what he said now could only be because there was something wrong with what Snape said. Hermione is confused +1-1, Pansy is confused +1-1, Cassandra is confused +10, doubtful +9, Snape is shocked +2-2. Riels raised his eyebrows, looked sideways at Snape, who had already asked 3 questions, and gave him a friendly smile. Snape is displeased +1-4, suspicious +1-3. He was targeting me, he was definitely targeting me. The corner of Riels's mouth twitched, and he muttered something harshly in his mind. Of course, he also knew that Snape wasn't targeting him, he just didn't like to trust others, otherwise Snape might not be alive now. Mr. Thomas, have you forgotten what I said? It seems that Mr. Thomas is very confident in himself, otherwise he wouldn't be smiling so happily. Snape walked to Riel's table and looked at him coldly. Then please tell me, how many ways are there to brew potions? What are they? As soon as this question was asked, everyone in the classroom immediately took a breath. This question was simply not on the same level as the one just now. Several young wizards began to look through the potion books in their hands, hoping to get the answers they wanted, but they were stopped by Snape's cold eyes. This is just a basic question. You can know it as long as you read the book carefully. Isn't it difficult for Mr. Thomas? Snape rubbed his wand and looked directly at Riels. After hearing this, everyone in the classroom all looked at Riels, with some sympathy, some gloating, some fear in their eyes. Hermione is worried +1-1, Pansy is nervous +1-1, Cassandra is worried +9, Snape is displeased +13, others are sympathetic +133, gloating +64. Riels raised an eyebrow. Decoction, brewing, maceration, ointment, poultice, tincture and lotion, there are 7 types in total. Am I right? It was so funny that he had been fighting in Diagon Alley for half a month just to deal with this situation. Even though your question is very tricky and unexpected, how should you deal with cheating players? As soon as Riels finished answering, the 3 girls, who were still a little worried, immediately felt relieved. The other little wizards who knew the answer also breathed a sigh of relief, while the little wizards who didn't know the answer looked at Snape. Snape looked at him deeply. Very good, you earned 10 points for Slytherin. After saying this coldly, Snape turned around and walked towards the podium, waving his wand to summon the potion book on the table. Snape is happy +1-2, Hermione is happy +1-1, Pansy is surprised +1-1, Cassandra is happy +9, others praise +5-2, jealousy +2-1. Riels raised his eyebrows, glanced sideways at Malfoy in the corner, and then looked at Ronald after thinking for a moment. No wonder he was jealous of being able to do blackjack again. He almost thought that Malfoy was having, but it turned out that Malfoy had just found someone who had the same idea. There are many kinds of magic potion formulas with different functions. Some can increase luck, some can heal injuries, and some can make people more beautiful. But these are still a little far away from you. Let me first teach you how to make a potion to treat boils. This is very simple. You only need to mix dried nettles. Snape's class was boring, and potions was very complicated, so it was no different from being tortured. Of course, this is for some people, and most people are still willing to cooperate and listen, although there is nothing they can do about not listening. The class ended in such a boring and unpleasant way. As soon as the bell rang, Snape stopped talking, picked up the potion book and walked out of the classroom without saying a word of nonsense. As soon as Snape left, the little wizards all made sounds of relief. On the way to the banquet hall, Hermione couldn't help but ask, "Why did you stop me from answering those questions before?" This question immediately attracted the attention of the other 2 women, causing them to look sideways at him, their eyes filled with curiosity and doubt. They knew that Riels wouldn't do that for no reason. Since he did it, there must be a purpose or a reason. It's better that you don't know, otherwise I'm afraid you won't know how to face Professor Snape in the future. Who would have known that Snape, who looks cold and emotionless, could actually be a love brain? Riels finished complaining secretly, and then said, "Those questions are very complicated, and they are all my guesses. You don't have to think too much, just listen to it as a normal question. By the way, Hermione, do you want to come to our table to eat together? The chicken drumsticks we have here are super big and delicious. Noticing that Riel's was deliberately changing the subject, the three little Lolitas stopped asking questions, but planted a seed of doubt in their hearts. You also said, Hermione, you don't know that he deliberately bullied me while eating. The chicken legs were clearly right in front of him, but he still asked me to get them for him. Pansy looked embarrassed and said, I just had to feed him directly into his mouth. The most outrageous thing is that he asked Cassandra to get him pumpkin juice. Cassandra turned to look at Riel's, a smile flashed in her emerald eyes. He did go too far. Hearing the two little Lolitas' complaints, Hermione immediately pinched her waist and glared at Riel's fiercely. Cassandra and Pansy also stared at Riel's in perfect agreement, unable to hide the smiles on their faces. How can you do such a thing? Do your own thing, you. Riel's didn't listen to what was said next, but quietly listened to Hermione's reprimand. He knew that these three little Lolita were following his words to change the subject. They really made me cry to death. System notifications sounded from time to time, all of which were about the happiness and joy of the three women. In a short time, he added more than 50 emotional points. Seeing that there were less than 2 hours left before the update ended, Riel's became more cheerful and even ate an extra chicken drumstick for dinner. What? Why eat chicken legs every time? Well, he is indeed hungry, very hungry. Bedroom. After washing up and feeding Garphila and Shanna, Riel's quietly sat cross-legged on the bed, waiting for the system update to finish. After eating and drinking enough gas, Garfield struggled to climb onto the bed, ran to his legs and lay down, turning his solid belly to let Riel's move. When the owl Shanna, who was standing on the high platform, saw this scene, she turned around with disdain, feeling that it would hurt her eyes to look at it again. This hobby of shoveling shit is really different. Riel's petted the cat absent-mindedly, looking straight at the countdown on the light screen in front of him. Distance to end of system update. 10.9, 0.8.3, 0.2, 0.1, 0.0. The system update is completed, new functions will be enabled, and update gift packages will be distributed. Riel sat upright suddenly, stopped petting the cat, and looked straight at the light screen in front of him. New feature. Lottery template. Lottery template. You can draw a lottery by consuming a certain amount of emotional value. The sources of prizes include but are not limited to the Harry Potter world. Not limited to the Harry Potter world. Doesn't that mean he has a chance to draw things from other worlds? If you take out any immortal cultivation techniques. Sir, I am no longer a wizard, I want to change my job to become an immortal cultivator. Riel's didn't even have time to open the update gift package, so he clicked on the lottery template and started to check the rules of the lottery. The entry-level lottery will be drawn once for 100 emotion points, the intermediate lottery will be drawn once for 1,000 emotion points, and the advanced lottery will be drawn once for 10,000 emotion points. There should be other lottery levels above that, but I can't check the price. It seems they haven't been unlocked yet. After understanding the lottery rules, Riel's looked at his 631 emotion value. He rubbed his chin a few times and stared at the primary lottery spot with some hesitation in his eyes. It's not that I'm hesitating whether to draw, but I'm hesitating whether to draw the elementary level directly or to draw the intermediate level. There is such a big price difference between these two products, one is beginner level and the other is intermediate level. You don't have to think about which one has a greater chance of producing good products. If you lose your emotional points, you can earn them again. If your heart feels itchy, you will have to itch it all night. You must smoke. It's hard to restrain one's curiosity, especially when things are at your fingertips and you can know everything if you want. This feeling is really, scratching my head, and itching in my heart are not enough to describe it. If it were someone else, he might have endured it and saved up his mood points to reach the mid-level, but he was different. What are you doing to earn emotional points? Isn't it just for flowers? If the emotional value is gone, you can earn it again, and if all the gold is spent, you can earn it again. And if he doesn't sleep well at night, it will affect his mood value tomorrow. Riel's made up his mind, rubbed his hands and said, System, let's do a 5, no, a 6-6 straight, you give me a 6-round draw. Consume 600 emotional points and successfully redeem 6 primary lottery draws. Thank you for your patronage. A bottle of primary magic potion. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Magic. Flying curse. A box of super soft toilet paper. Riels was almost stunned by the series of thank yous for your patronage, but he breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the rewards later. Let's not talk about the primary magic potion. It is sold in the mall for 500 emotional points. This alone is enough to recoup a large part of the cost. What's more, there is a heavy flying curse, which sells for 2,000-5,000 in the mall. This time I made a small profit of 2,400 sentiment points, and even bought a box of toilet paper for free. Is this what it feels like to be a gambling dog? Sure enough, exciting. Excited, Riels raised his head and drank the primary magic potion in one gulp, then lay on the bed to calm his pounding heart. At the same time, accept the extra information about the flying spell in your mind. The flying curse sounds like an everyday curse with little power, and it is. In a sense, it is a variant of the levitation spell, but it is different from the levitation spell. The flying spell can quickly summon objects or even creatures to the caster, but the floating spell cannot. It can make objects or creatures float, but it moves very slowly. Of course, the biggest difference between the flying curse and the floating curse is the power. The flying curse is very powerful, especially for sneak attacks. It can hit the opponent hard from behind. The floating spell cannot do this. You use the floating spell to control objects to attack. As long as the enemy is not lame or unable to move, he will definitely be able to avoid it. The flying curse performs well both for daily use and for unexpected attacks during battles. No wonder it sells for 2,500 emotional points. After Riels finished testing the flying spell, he nodded with great satisfaction, and then looked at the update gift package. He has not forgotten that this gift package was one of the reasons why he chose to update immediately. Based on the nature of the system, the things in it shouldn't be bad, otherwise it would have to be afraid that I won't update it in the future. In fact, his harvest this time has been very good, both in the lottery mode and in the rewards drawn out. But again, who would feel satisfied if they could have more? Desire is like a rolling stone on a high mountain, once it starts, it will never stop. Riels rubbed his chin a few times, with some anticipation in his eyes. System, open the update gift package. Congratulations to the host for opening the update gift package and receiving rewards. 1 special draw, 1 magic fusion, sub-template, character panel. Special lottery. There is no level lottery. If you are lucky, you may get the elixir. If you are not lucky, you may get a roll of toilet paper. Thank you for your patronage. Magic fusion. 2 magic spells with similar levels are fused to form a new magic spell. The fusion effect of magic spells with similar functions will be better. Character panel. One of the system sub-templates, you can view the basic information of the host and digitize the information. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.